sort of like a suspense feel.
No, for sure.
Yeah,
I
they're getting started. That.
Okay.
That's me.
Hey, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight in person as well as online. We at Left Bank Books are delighted to welcome Missouri author Mathew Goldberg for his highly praised new book, Night Watch. A couple of notes before we begin. Tonight's event is only possible because of your support. When you support Left Bank Books, your money goes directly into our local economy, so it helps to keep our streets paved and our parks beautiful and everything else that makes St. Louis amazing. It also helps, of course, support us and allow us to support authors. So thank you very much for shopping local with us tonight. If you're joining us from online, thank you for being here from wherever you are. You'll be able to participate in the question and answer period at the end by typing your question as a YouTube comment, and I'll keep an eye on that and keep up your question. And then left-bank.com is our website, and you can purchase signed copies of Matt's book today. We at Left Bank Books are always hard at work putting together a full calendar of author events for the year. Left-bank.com, our website, has all the details of all of our upcoming events. And we've got several a week, so there's always something out there for somebody. Can check us out there. Our author tonight, Mathew Goldberg, has a forthcoming debut collection of short stories, Night Watch. This is the recipient of the Spokane Prize for short fiction. Mathew Goldberg is a dedicated writer of short stories and novels, who also works as a professor. His academic experience with the BSc in Electrical and Biomedical Engineering from Duke University, as well as an MFA from the University of Arkansas, creates a special perspective and edge to his writing. His work has been published in The Atlantic, American Short Fiction, and Boulevard, among other places. He has received an individual artist fellowship from the Arkansas Arts Council and a special mention for a postcard prize. He lives in Missouri with his wife, their son, and their long-eared dog. Night Watch is a haunting symphony of longing and unease. It is richly atmospheric and unsettlingly intimate. This collection explores the fragility of trust, the allure of hidden lives, and the darkness that shapes us all. Author Lee Martin says the stories in Mathew Goldberg's Night Watch are luminous with the closely observed truths of our existence. Each one is a gem. Please join me in giving a very warm welcome to Mathew Goldberg.
Thank you. Thanks for the intro. I wish our long-eared and long-haired dog was here with us too. Thanks everyone for coming out. I really appreciate it. And thanks for watching. I'm going to read a story that the idea came from my other life when I was an engineer. And I was working a summer at outside of Baltimore through Johns Hopkins, teaching robotics actually to middle schoolers, well, actually junior high students. And they were all really smart, like gifted and talented kids. And so they had no trouble with the programming aspects of it. But what they did have trouble with was it was Lego robotics. So they had trouble sharing the Legos. And there was always little fights over who was building, who was sharing, who was not sharing. And I had to always fill out a form called a simmer when there was any kind of bodily fluid, so blood, tears, throw up, anything like that. And I averaged about 3 a day for 12 kids. So it was a lot of management. It was more of like a camp counselor than anything else, but it was fun. Anyway, the kids were very smart, and at one point, the kids did stuff finished their stuff early and would get into other stuff. And one of them found somehow online the 7th Harry Potter book before it came out, which I thought was pretty clever. And then another one wound up hacking everyone's emails, the staff, instructors, counselors, fellow campers, and sat down with him and the camp coordinator and the camp counselor, like the psychological counselor, the therapist. And he was very unfazed by being confronted by this, and when said, well, this is people's private information, his response was, yeah, I know, I kept it private. And I just thought that was, okay, all right. And so that was the genesis of this story, which I actually wrote. I'd finished grad school, but was working at J.B. Hunt, among other engineers, the trucking company, when I wrote this. It's called Entropy. The men in suits come twice a day. They park their black sedans across the street, and when their car doors close, they sound like large hands being clapped. I use my binoculars to record the license plates from my bedroom window. License plates numbers get listed by state. Since DC is not a state, I list their numbers on my notebook's last page. The men know to come before my mother leaves for work, and then again when she gets home. If I sneak down the stairs, I can listen to them talk, but I can't see their faces. Josh could do big things with us, they say. Josh is going to college, my mother says. He has perfect SATs, but not the grades, say the men. That's none of your business. He could be helping his country. He's only 17. Exactly, Mrs. Lindley. He's almost an adult. The stairs creak and I try not to stumble. I know I'm clumsy and I don't trust my body. At school, I stick to the sides of the hallway, combination locks hitting my shoulders. I'm not good with people, so I don't mind how my mother won't let the men talk to me. She hides their business cards at her bedside table under the manicuring kit in the first drawer. When I get home from school after seeing the psychologist, I bring my notebook into the bedroom for the names and numbers next to the license plates. In the margins, I write NSA, DOD, or CIA, whatever it says on the cards. In AP Physics, Mr. T teaches us about entropy, how a system plus its surroundings moves toward disorder. He draws a free body diagram on the blackboard where a box of gas falls off the table and shatters after hitting the floor. Mr. T speaks slowly and enunciates, but I still have trouble concentrating. Even when I prick myself in the thigh with the unfolded paperclip I keep in my pants pocket. Instead of copying down the thermodynamics equations Mr. T writes on the board, I wonder about each gas particle, how it wants to be set free. Mr. T keeps me after class. I know that he's angry because his forehead is pinched. A line zigzags down the center of his face like a thunderbolt. At the beginning of the year, his goatee made his face hard to read. Now I know how to watch his forehead. His black hair is clouded a premature gray, like someone clapped chalkboard erasers over his head. And his shirt collar has a yellow fade from sweat. He squeezes into one of the chair desks, his belly spilling onto the desk arm. He sits directly across from me, his shoes almost touching mine, his eyes not letting go of my face. How'd you do it, Josh? He asked. Do what? Come on, buddy, I'm not an idiot. How'd you get a perfect score? I studied. You studied? Mr. T smiles, but this does not mean he's happy. His smile is slight, his lips folded in, his jaw tight, his forehead still pinched. Yeah, I studied. Okay, Josh, he says, still smiling. It's just, I'm having a hard time figuring out how you were the only student to answer number 15 correctly. 15 is 1111 in binary. That's true, Josh, but I'm talking about the text. Question 15, the coefficient of friction for a block pushed by a spring. What made you choose B? Lucky, I guess. I covered a hand over my mouth to stop talking. Very lucky, said Mr. T, especially since C was the right answer. Only there was a mistake in the answer key. How could you have known this? I shrugged, my hand over my mouth. Sometimes I wonder if people can read my face like I can read theirs. Maybe I should wear a mask like the people in comic books do to protect their identities. I don't like people to see me thinking. The bright turquoise of Mr. T's tie hurts my eyes. I only wear black. The man in black, Mr. T calls me, but only when he's happy. Now he sets his elbow on the desk and rubs his eyes with his fist. He looks tired. When he stares at me again, the smile is gone. Jesus, Josh, how'd you hack into my computer? I spend the first period study hall in the school library reading about Einstein. Before he and his first wife were married, they had a daughter and gave her up for adoption. I like to pretend that this daughter had another daughter and I came from her. When Marilyn Pierce stares at me through the stacks with those black feline glasses, my stomach starts to flinch and my face gets hot. Marlene sits next to me in English and I copy off her tests. She must know what I'm doing because she drops her right arm from her desk so I can see. English is my worst class. With fiction, I have trouble seeing the characters. Miss Potts, the librarian, calls me a character. When the bell rings, I load my program into the computer and then find her behind the book return counter. She scans books like food at a grocery store. Yes, Josh, she says without looking up. Her ears twitch, which means she's annoyed. I accidentally deleted a file. Just look for it in trash, but I logged out. Miss Potts stops swiping books. She looks at my face and I try to wear a mask. Okay, she says, let me log on. With her keyboard under the counter and her monitor turned away from me, I can see what she's typing. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't see what she's typing. But now my program has wormed its way into the school network, and in a few seconds it will email me her password. I don't see anything, she says. That's okay, I say. I'll find it. Mr. T has 2 email accounts, one with the school and one with AOL. He uses his AOL account to play internet poker, send resumes to schools in California, and email a woman named Lydia who lives in Orange County. I'm tired of Baltimore, he writes to her. The Rust Belt, he calls it. His resume says he went to Townsend and majored in psychology. He's been teaching at Owings Mills for 17 years. I'm 17, a prime number, 10001 in binary. My birthday is April 15th, the day the Titanic sunk. It hit the iceberg the day before, but it sank on the 15th and killed either 1,517 or 1,490 people. It depends if you ask the US or England. Lincoln died on April 15th too. So did Pol Pot and Joey Ramone. Mr. T was born on January 29th. It said so on his bank statements. Robert Frost died on that day. So did Barbara. We're beating a dead horse, says Mr. T. He, my mother, and I sit across from the principal in his office. I've never seen the principal's bald head so shining. Beads of sweat gather to form Cassiopeia. His face says he needs more explanation, but I don't know what more I can say. I hacked into the network because it felt like something I was supposed to do. That's not good enough, says the principal. Besides cheating, you looked at your classmates' grades as well as your teachers' salaries in personal emails. I've never seen such a gross invasion of privacy. It's not really an invasion of privacy, I say. Oh, and why not? Because I didn't tell anyone. The principal narrows his eyes. Beads of sweat dance on his head. Well, Marv, says Mr. T, you at least have to admire his ethics. Josh is a good boy, my mother says. He's just confused. She's wearing one of her dark gray Liz Claiborne business suits. As an executive for IKEA, she makes enough money not to need alimony from my father, who lives with a new family in Ohio. As my mother leans over the principal's desk, she cracks her knuckles and crosses her legs in a way that says it's time to do business. Tell me, Marv, she says, what can we work out? I prefer to do things the same way over and over again. Waking up at 5:55 a.m., pulling on a black Target t-shirt and relaxed fit corduroys, left leg first, then fixing 2 eggs over easy on medium-low heat for 7.25 minutes. I don't like how they change my schedule. Instead of study hall in the library, I now spend first period with Mr. T working to improve the security of the school's network. After school, I take a bus. I have no driver's license. To a 2-story, 70s-style office building by White Marsh Mall, where a psychologist asks behavioral questions and gives me multiple choice tests similar to the reading comprehension segment of the SATs. After 2 weeks, he meets with my mother and me to explain how I might be, quote, on the spectrum. You think he's autistic? My mother interrupts him reading from the DSM. High functioning, said the psychologist. We used to call it Asperger's. My mother wrings her hands. What can we do? That night, we eat breakfast food for dinner and play Milton Bradley's Game of Life. I drive the blue station wagon and she drives the red. What do you want to be, my mother asks, a doctor or a lawyer? I want to be a homeless person, I tell her, or an alcoholic. Joshua Linley. Her eyes narrow, her eyebrows forming exclamation points. That's a horrible thing to say. Just joking, I say, even though I'm not. Being homeless is being free. It scares me to think about 4 more years of poking myself in the leg, of sharing a bunk bed with a stranger. When my mother drives us to her office on the weekends, I stare out the car window and watch the man with stringy hair who lives on the corner of Mercantile and Honeycomb. Tattooed on his shoulder is a picture of Ferdinand the Bull smelling a flower. The man sits on the sidewalk and smokes cigarettes and writes song lyrics on shopping bags. Once I got out of the car to see what he was writing and asked him for a cigarette. He took a drag and shook his head before my mother sprinted around the car and grabbed my arm. You're going to college, my mother says. She put down her play money. We're not going to argue about this. Argue comes from silver, which means clear or clarify. My mother takes my hands, even though she knows I don't like being touched. Are we clear? I nod. Only I don't tell her how one of the men in suits has been coming by school, finding me by the bike racks before first period. His card says he's from the U.S. Army, but instead of a uniform, he wears a brown suit and green tie. His face is tan and glossy, which makes it hard to read. Josh, he says, there are a lot of bad guys in the world, and we could use your help to stop them. With weapons, I ask? I don't like weapons. No, the man says. I'm not talking bombs or missiles. Imagine if you took away a country's power, water, or transportation. People would get hurt. Only the bad ones, the man smiles. When my mother falls asleep, I sneak out of the house and walk up to the soccer fields, where I lie on the grass and watch the stars. At night, the outdoors feels like a room. I like days when the sun is blocked out, when the sky takes on the color of a deep bruise. Nighttime is better. Constellations waging war. When I trace their patterns, my body drops away like an abandoned marionette. Sometimes I wonder if I'm an alien, if I crashed from space into a cornfield like Superman. You have a girlfriend, Mr. T asked me. It's first period, so he and I sit together at the computer in his classroom. I shake my head and study my code. What about Marlene? I saw you talking to her before class. Who? No. Mr. T gives my shoulder a light punch. Come on, Casanova, you should get her to hold your hand. How do I do that? Before the bell rings, Marlene asks if I'd really broken into the school's network. No one except Mr. T and the principal were supposed to know. But then the other kids began patting me on the back. Good going, Shaggy. And the men in suits started coming to the house. I guess I'm the only one who can keep a secret. How'd you do it, Shag? The other kids want to know. They call me Shaggy after the character from Scooby-Doo. I shake their arms off my shoulders and wonder if I really look like a cartoon. I don't watch TV, so I'm not sure how to know. Marlene's the only one to call me by my name. Josh, she says, did you see my grades? Marlene has straight A's except for a C in math. She's 16 but takes senior English. Gray black bangs hang over her glasses. She has 4 freckles and a beauty spot at the base of her throat. She was born November 9th, the day the Berlin Wall fell, and Yves Montand died. Though I don't like being touched, the idea of holding Marlene's hand makes me dizzy in a good way. Can you fix something for me, she asks. You look like a cat, I tell her, before ducking into Mr. T's classroom. Mr. T rubs his goatee. Okay, he says, say to her like as a joke, let's do what normal kids do. But I'm not a normal kid. Come on, Josh, normal people are boring. They're marzipan. Huh? Chicks dig loners, like you, the man in black. Mr. T looks me up and down. You got your own entire philosophy. I'm sorry if I looked at your email, I tell him. Mr. T studies the computer screen. Yeah, well, no harm done. I appreciate your discretion. You're an honest guy, Josh. Don't let anyone take that from you. And be careful with these government types. I can only imagine how they want to use it. Behind Mr. T's desk is a poster of Einstein. He looks like my mother's father, except for the long, wild hair. When Einstein died, someone stole and cut up his brain. They drove across the country and the pieces were never found. A bee crawls from the mouth of Mr. T's Diet Coke can. You're not going to California, I say, are you? I don't know, Josh. I met someone special there. You're lucky, I say. Mr. T smiles and looks at my code on the computer screen. Sometimes, he said, but sometimes you have to make your own luck. You should marry Mr. T, I tell my mother at dinner. She laughs at this, arranging Chinese takeout boxes along the kitchen table. He needs to stay in Baltimore, I say. Okay, my mother sits down at the table and breaks apart her chopsticks. I know you like him, she says, rubbing her sticks together, but everyone's got to go their own way. If you married him, he wouldn't need more money. Josh, I'm not going to marry your teacher. She opens a box of rice and steam rises to her face. And how do you know he needs money? Though I made the school's network hacker-proof, I kept the back door in case of emergency. The emergency was changing Marlene's math grade from a C to an A. While I was in the system, I checked Mr. T's AOL account and found statements from online casinos, along with an offer letter from a high school in San Bernardino. You could go to college in California, my mother suggests, but this seems impossible. I don't know the equations behind it, but I'm sure my molecules would break apart once I crossed the Mississippi. The ocean belongs to the east, not the west, just as gravity makes things fall down. I thought you said I couldn't go further than Carnegie Mellon. My mother takes her time chewing. She looks to the counter and the pile of hardback books the psychologist recommended. After a hard swallow, she takes a long swig of wine. Maybe California for grad school then. Maybe, I say, forking noodles onto my plate. Mom, I say, yes, honey. Next time I want to pick one of the orders. Okay, she says, sure. And I want to try chopsticks. It's Friday night and I'm lying with Marlene on the soccer field. The moon is an eyelash, a thin, almost negligible sliver of light. Marlene's hand is smaller than mine, but delicate and smooth. Between her 2 largest fingers, I feel the pulse of her heart. About my grade, she says. With my free hand, I reach into my jacket pocket and manipulate a crushed packet of saltines, still wrapped in cellophane. It makes a soft, pleasing crunch. People are only nice when they want something from you. It's just like the men in suits. After school, I called the man from the Army and requested a meeting at the Starbucks inside the mall. I bought an iced tea and watched mothers load their infants into strollers. I sucked ice until my cold teeth hurt. When the man with the green tie sat across from me, I swallowed the ice and outlined my terms. I stay in Baltimore to work for you, and you stop Mr. T from leaving. In my backpack, I carried copies of Mr. T's last several tax returns, along with his bank and casino statements, knowing the numbers didn't match. The man with the green tie looked everything over before nodding and then shaking hands. Remember to act surprised, I tell Marlene. She squeezes my hand. Then she places her lips on mine. She tastes like cherry chapstick. Clouds cover the stars and the night convulses with the threat of storm. We both look up to the blank sky and Marlene runs a hand through my hair. So where to next year? I'm staying here, I mean to tell her, but it doesn't come out. Instead, thunder announces itself like someone up above is moving heavy furniture. Even with Marlene next to me, I feel vulnerable out here in the open. We're going to get wet, I finally say. There's no way around it. Thank you.
Oh.
Forget there was one other inspiration for the story, which kind of embarrassed to admit, which is that I did a hacking thing too in high school. That I grew up in Maryland, and there was we had to take like it was called the functional math test, and I was in computer classes, and I realized the test was written in the same language that we were learning, and there was no back then. In the 90s, there was no protection on any of this, or the school forgot to do it. So I messed up the test. So, and something similar happened where people were like, "Oh, did you do that?" That kind of, I never said I did it though. Anyway.
I never knew about that.
Yeah, I know.
Do you want to do a Q&A?
Yeah, sure.
Any questions either in person or online here?
What was your resource for what you included about autism spectrum?
I hope I did something genuine. That was my hope. I did a lot of reading on and then my best talking to people too. I was talking to some counselors also who encountered especially young patients who had autism. And this had to have been, I guess, which was at the time called Asperger's, but they don't call it that anymore. Someone, and I don't think they use this term anymore either, like high functioning, but I wanted to make it as authentic as I could, but still be a fictional character. So yeah, it was a combination of reading nonfiction and also talking to experts.
How do you decide a story's finished?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure even looking at it right now, there's some things I'd like to add or change, but it's like locked. So it's probably like any other art, like you paint something and there's something afterwards you'd like to change or add to it. I think it's just having to tell yourself that it's done, and then you have a sense that like, okay, I don't have any more for this, I guess, and it feels like it's clicking. And it's also then relying on your readers who you trust is really important.
I think it ended naturally because you leave the reader knowing something about this kid's future. He has some plan in place.
Oh yeah, I mean the literal ending is ambiguous, but also you know where it's going. Yeah, that's true. I think yeah. I don't like being didactic. That's certainly true.
So there's nothing, no message to anybody in your book.
I don't know. I'm not saying that, but I like stories where there's like some kind of resonance or you feel something at the end of it, and you're not like talking down to somebody.
Where do you get your ideas for your story?
Well, yeah, this one was from different experiences. I think it's sometimes it's something you read, and sometimes it's being out in the world. I'm looking at the ones here. I mean, the title story, Night Watch, is it's about a boy who, I think he's in 9th grade, and so another young character, and he discovers a body. And the idea came from just a memory I have of having a neighbor my age who played violin. And that was it. And that it was just odd that she practiced so hard, and I always heard her playing violin. And she's not really a central point in the story, but it gave me the idea of like a character who would want to listen to that kind of a neighbor who played violin so much that he would sneak out at night to go listen. And then while he was at night listening, he would spy on all his neighbors. And then what would happen, like in a rear window kind of sense, if he's out spying on people, something noirish has to happen. And then also the news thing that happened is in Maryland and Virginia around that time, there was, well, no, not that, but there was events like that kind of fit the story there.
Are there other writers that you like so much that you take up their style of writing?
Yeah, it'd be hard to say all of them. I think ones that I think I keep gravitating to, Tobias Wolff is a big one. I'm trying to think of ones that aren't super obvious. Ron Rash is a writer I like a lot. I'm thinking of. I like ones too that do like some strange stuff in there. I mean, I think a lot of people also would say Raymond Carver too, but he's a big one. In fact, I think even his stories kind of earn inspiration for the cover a little bit. But this idea of people like trying to find connection is definitely an inspiration.
Do you, are you drawn to the age group of sort of 13, 14 up to this character was 17, you said a Night Watch. So that period of adolescence is interesting, it is sort of fruitful for you?
I think so. And that's not all the character ages here, but those two that I mentioned, and then other ones like think back sometimes to that time, because it's such a weird, strange time when you have possibility and tension, and the stakes are so high to things that are seemingly so small. Like, is this girl gonna hold my hand?
Right.
And is this teacher gonna recognize me? And am I gonna pass this test? Which 20 years later doesn't matter at all, but at the time it's the biggest thing in the world. But then you don't know everything else that awaits you at the same time. Yeah. And you're locked in. I mean, you have your own little view of your world then. Yeah.
Question. So when you think about choosing short story,
Mm-hmm.
what do you hope a short story can do for the reader versus a poem versus a novel? Like a short story in particular, like why are you drawn to that one? What do you want it?
I think a novel probably is more the full meal kind of thing. Like you're going to read it over a longer period of time. It's going to give you a full breadth of a character's life. It's going to have a beginning, middle, and end. And then a short story is usually just, a lot of times the ones I like are really jagged and sharp and there's higher pressure with poetry too. You need a much stronger economy of words. You have less space to do the same thing. So every word has to be chosen really carefully. So it's in some sense a different kind of challenge. Like a novel, you have a ton of space to get what you want across, but a short story, it has to be like, even if it's a sweet story, like jagged and sharp in the sense of like grabbing a reader, keeping them going, and then leaving them with some kind of feeling that ultimately, for me, a good one is one that will keep thinking about and echo throughout the rest of the day, not necessarily immediately want to jump to the next thing.
Any last questions? Anyone want to be the final note here? All right, well, let's give one more round of applause.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for coming. If you don't have your book yet, we've got some at the desk, and we'll get some books signed. And you're welcome to hang out and enjoy your time at the store. So thank you all for coming.